Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. My name is Allison Rendelman and I am a Customer Success Associate here at YCharts. Hosting our webinar today is my colleague, Jean Romero, a Senior Account Executive on our team. For today's topic, we're going to take a closer look at model portfolios. Throughout the webinar, we'll have a live Q&A via chat where you can ask questions in the section to the lower right corner of the screen. We will answer some of those questions at the end of Jean's demonstration. Any questions that are not answered during the Q&A session will be answered by your support contact. Please keep in mind that the content of this webinar is meant for educational purposes only and is not intended to be used as investment advice, nor is YCharts acting as an advising party regarding client funds in any way. Finally, as always, a recording of the webinar will be made available on the website and sent to all attendees. Now, I'm going to pass it off to Jean to get started.
Thank you, Allison, and welcome, YCharters. During our last webinar, my colleague Locke Olson gave a great high-level overview of our newest and most anticipated feature of 2018, model portfolios. Today, we are going to review how to set up your model portfolios as well as the ability to add benchmarks. From there, we're going to analyze a few of our allocations using our data table tools, and then we're going to evaluate them over various recessionary periods, and then set up some awesome monitoring functions using custom email reports as well as our dashboard pages. So let's dig in. First, to set up a new model portfolio, you're just going to visit the Tools drop-down in your account and go to Model Portfolios. From there, click on the Create New box in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Simply give your model portfolio a name. Today I'm just going to use a balanced portfolio, and add a description. This is an optional field that you can add for any strategy or an objective that you're looking to do with this model portfolio. From there, select your rebalance frequency, either monthly or quarterly, and I always suggest using the oldest security as your start of your history. This will automatically reweight to the other securities in the portfolio if the newest security hasn't been around very long. Finally, add in the names of your securities. I'll only add a couple in this example. I will add a Dodge & Cox Income Fund as well as a Dodge & Cox Mutual Fund. And after our last webinar, a lot of clients were asking, how do I add a cash position to my portfolio? I've been telling my clients to use a Vanguard Money Mutual or Money Market Fund, VMFXX. Once you do that, then you can add the corresponding weights, update the portfolio, and put it in the oven to bake. For a couple minutes, you will notice that it says calculating on the right-hand side of your screen until it becomes available like some of the other models that I have in my library here. Another popular question after our last portfolio was, or after our last webinar rather, was how do I create a blended benchmark? To do this, simply create a new model portfolio and add different securities. So I'll use SPY, AGG, and an All Country World Index ETF. Once you save this, then it will be available as another model portfolio that you can call a blended benchmark and use in the other parts of the system. Once your models have been created, then you can begin leveraging them in other parts of our system. To start, I'm going to come to our Timeseries Analysis tool, where a lot of my clients have found value in being able to look at rolling returns over various time periods. To do this, go to the Securities box in the upper left-hand corner and add in any models that you want to take a look at. I'll bring in 3. I'll bring in an aggressive growth model, that balanced model, along with a conservative model. Once you have these populated, then simply search for any metric that you want in the search bar here. Today I'm going to look at 1 month total returns. Please be sure to use total returns when looking at model portfolios. Add them in, and now you will see monthly rolling returns for the last 5 years. If you would like to go back further than that, then use the custom date range up here at the top and say 10 years. If you want to go back to 2008, then you can simply use this last button right above these models to go to the first data point in that series. Now I know what you're thinking. This is all great data, but what if I wanted to visualize this? Well, they don't call us YCharts for nothing. So let's go in to our sample balanced portfolio by clicking the portfolio link over here on the left-hand side of my screen. Once this is open, then you will have your model portfolio's overview or quote page available to you. Now I'm going to focus on the performance tab just for a moment here because I want to add in our other models. To do this, all I do is go into the edit comparables and add them in here. If you'd like to reorder them, you can do that. Hit update, and now they'll be available in the chart up along the top, as well as the rolling annual and trailing returns down here at the bottom. Now that data that I was pulling into the time series analysis tool is also available under this data tab. So if I click in there, then I can use this search bar to look at this over time. One thing that I really like is on the right-hand side of my screen, you'll notice that we will have a minimum and a maximum over the last 5 years. So you can see that October of this year was actually the worst month in that 5-year history, whereas in March 2016 I had my best month of almost 5% as well as an average. Cool thing is that once you set up your comps in that performance tab, they are also over there on the right-hand side. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand this top chart by going in to this full chart right there. And once again, I will use the search bar on the left-hand side to add in those different portfolios. So I'm going to do aggressive growth along with conservative. And now you can see a very interesting chart appear where my aggressive growth portfolio is subject to more volatile swings. You'll see higher peaks and valleys over the last 5 years in each of those monthly returns, whereas that balanced portfolio is a little bit better and that conservative portfolio isn't quite as volatile. A couple other nice things when you're looking at your model portfolios is by using the control panel on the left-hand side of your screen, you can do some pretty nifty things like looking at performance of these over recessionary periods or over drawdowns. So to do this, I'm going to change our financial metrics from this 1 month total returns back to the cumulative level. I will uncheck those total returns, so I still have them available if I want to revisit them later. And now let's see how these portfolios did over a recessionary period. By using the custom date range up at the top of my page, I'm going to apply from June 2007 and go until, let's say, December of 2009. Great. Now, at the very bottom left-hand corner of my screen, you'll notice that data format section. I'm going to use the % off high bubble to see the drawdown that these portfolios were subject to during that period. And I'm also going to use this chart options section to gray out that recessionary period. Once I check that, you will see how we were trading leading into that recessionary period. Just about all of these portfolios were at their all-time highs. Obviously, the aggressive growth portfolio had the biggest swing and drew down to about 45% in the midst of that financial crisis, and then how they responded coming back out of that. You'll see that the conservative portfolio was back to its all-time highs shortly thereafter, whereas the aggressive growth portfolio still hadn't fully recovered by the end of 2009. Another thing that we can do is we can just look at the cumulative performance of these portfolios. I will just select the normalized bubble there in the bottom left-hand corner once again. And let's just look at a year-to-date chart. See how these guys have done. Another cool thing about our new charting feature is that you can actually show annualized data once again under the chart options dropdown. By selecting that box, then we'll be able to hover over any period in this chart, and you will notice just above there that you have an annualized figure. Once you have a chart that you like, then of course you can save it for future monitoring. So I'm going to come up here and go to my Save Charts, Save As, let's just name it Model Performance Year to Date. Now that this has been saved to my account, then I can use it in a couple different areas, including our new custom email reports. So once again, in the Tools dropdown, I will go to the Email Reports. I'm going to add this to my weekly review. Just like our awesome Market Pulse, you can set up custom newsletters to be sent to you on a regular basis. This is sent to me every Monday morning, and it has the information that I find most relevant. So I'm going to use this little pencil icon over here to edit this report. And then I will add a module. So if you recall, we just created that chart in our fundamental charts. So I will select that fundamental chart bubble, hit next, and now I'm going to use this model portfolio year to date, add that, and now to drag this to the top, just hover over the module and you'll see this reorder section. Take that right up top there. And then I can also add in some of the funds that I use in that portfolio to see what's doing well over different periods. So once again, add in that module. I will go into this security return summary. Let's select funds because that's what I use to create this allocation. Model portfolios, my models, and let's just find our sample balanced right there. Add that in, and I will also reorder that. Once you have it in the order that you like, simply hit Save, and now you can preview how this will be delivered to you on an ongoing basis. Once I hit preview, then we'll open this up, and now you can see that our model performance year to date is the first chart there. Right below, you have the various mutual funds or ETFs that you have in that portfolio, as well as how they've done over 1 week, 1 year, as well as year to date and 1 month performance there. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add those models to my dashboard. Every time I come into the office, I'll be able to see how they've done. Now I'm going to go to create a new chart in the upper right-hand corner of my primary dashboard. Now a little tip here, name it whatever you'd like. Add in your portfolios and then be sure to use level as your financial metric here, not total returns in this case. It's almost treated like an index where you can add a level and then normalize that, save the chart, and now you will see those over there on the right-hand side of my screen where you can look back over any period that you would like. That's all from me. Let's open it up to some questions.
Thank you, Gene, for giving us a closer look on how we can best utilize YCharts' new models portfolio tool. I also want to thank everyone who submitted questions. There are a few I'll bring up now for Gene to answer. So Gene, the first question we got, I noticed you created a blended benchmark model portfolio using ETFs. Can you do the same thing using indexes?
That's a great question, and yes, you absolutely can. So one thing that I forgot to mention is that when you're creating a new model portfolio, you can do a couple different things here. You'll notice under the benchmark section in this upper right-hand corner that there is the ability to edit that from the S&P 500. A couple of my clients have really liked using the S&P target risk indexes, which will be blended. But related to the question, simply search for an index down here, like the S&P total return, and you can add an index with a corresponding weight to create a blended benchmark using indices.
Thank you, Gene. Another question we got is, can you break down geographic allocation for model portfolios?
Another fantastic question, and the answer is yes. So if I go into my sample balanced portfolio here, you will notice up along the top, one of the tabs that we didn't touch on is the Allocations tab. When I go in there, not only will you have the asset allocation, but you will have access to regional exposures as well as your weighted sector exposures.
Great. And it looks like we have time for one last question. Jean went through the model portfolio quote page. Can we see dividend yield or expense ratio for your model portfolio?
Yeah, so let me go back to that quote page for a second, Allison. In order to do that, you should focus on the key stats section right here and then go to Customize. When you go to Customize, then you will be able to edit any of your key stats and then pull them from our library of metrics. This will be a weighted expense ratio, and rather than using this average market cap, I can change that to a weighted yield. Hit Update, and now you'll notice that those come through on the model portfolio quote page.
Great. Well, thank you, Jean, for covering these questions, and thank you all for attending today's webinar. We've seen a lot of interest in the model portfolio feature and are excited about the feedback. If you currently do not have access to the model portfolios tool but are interested in gaining access, please reach out to your YCharts contact. Thanks again for joining, and please look out for our webinars continuing next month.